Not all breakups with avoidance are abrupt, blindsiding discards. Sometimes they can slow fade out on you, or they're just slowly pulling back, pulling back, withdrawing affection, being less mushy, being less loving, being less doting, spending less time with you. And when they do spend time with you, they are more cold and distant. Physical intimacy fades and fades until it's essentially non existent. But every time you ask this person if everything is okay, they tell you everything is just fine. There's no issues whatsoever. But meanwhile, their behavior says otherwise. They are pulling away and pulling away and pulling away. And your anxiety is going through the roof. And you're likely blaming yourself, wondering, what is it that you did wrong? What happened? Why is this person pulling away from what seemed to be a wonderful, loving relationship? And you're getting no explanations whatsoever. And then the relationship ends. The avoidant finally cuts the cord, or you get fed up with the slow fade. You get fed up with the lack of communication and the lack of intimacy, and you end it. Why did they slow fade out? Well, chances are the avoidant resents you. Usually the slow fade happens in longer term relationships or even marriages with an avoidant. And it's because they've built up resentment towards their partner. This is because there have been wants, needs, feelings that the avoidant has had that have not been addressed in the relationship. But the reason they haven't been addressed is because they've never communicated it to you. They never told you, or they hinted at it at best. The avoidant, well, they'll tell themselves, or even you, things like, if you love me, you should just know. You should just know how I feel. You should just know what I want. Putting you in the position of having to be a mind reader, which is ultimately setting the relationship up to failure, because nobody is a mind reader. No matter how much you love the other person, you can't read their mind. No two humans are exactly alike. No two humans will think the exact same thing all the time. So why don't they just communicate with you? Because if they did, it could avoid the breakdown of a relationship. It goes back to this person's childhood. They experienced consistent childhood emotional neglect. They were not given the love and nurturing in the way that they needed from their parents or caretakers. But in addition to that neglect, they often experienced having their feelings routinely dismissed. If they expressed negative emotions, sadness, stress, anxiety, it was shot down. The message was sent, your emotions aren't welcome here. If you want to go be sad in your room. Children are meant to be seen, not heard. That kind of mentality. So they grew up to feel like their emotions were just a burden on anybody else. And their feelings would be met with rejection, possibly outright abandonment. So for this reason, it causes them enormous anxiety, even when they think of communicating about their feelings in a relationship. So they don't. They hold it in. They bottle it up. They avoid dealing with it. Avoid dealing with anything that's stressful, anything unpleasant, and just bottling it up and avoiding communication, because they're avoiding what they perceive to be inevitable rejection and abandonment if they communicate. But the problem is their unmet needs, their unmet wants, or maybe their partner's doing something that they don't like. It's not being addressed. It's just being bottled up and bottled up and bottled up. And this leads to building and building and building resentment. And finally, the resentment reaches the breaking point where they can't take it anymore and they start to withdraw from the relationship. They can do it all at once, but typically it is a slow fade out where they just pull away, pull away, pull away. And this is largely due to a fear of communication again. They're afraid of communicating to their partner that they're unhappy, so they just take steps back and hope that their partner is the one to end it out of frustration. Because if their partner ends it, they're not the bad guy. They don't have to take accountability for the lack of communication, for how they hurt the other person, because they're not the one that ended it. See, it's my partner that ended it, so I don't have to look within, avoiding self-reflection. Avoidants avoid, and that includes many different areas they avoid. Self-reflection, avoiding accountability, avoiding emotions, avoiding communication. That's because nobody showed them how to do any of this stuff as a kid due to that emotional neglect. So, when their partner ends it, they feel a sense of relief, but if their partner doesn't end it, eventually it gets to the point where the avoidant will just end it, usually with a very vague excuse or maybe a specific excuse, citing a reason why they're ending the relationship, but it's usually something that was never communicated to the partner. Either way, the relationship failed due to a lack of communication. And the person that was slow faded out on, all they get to experience was nothing but anxiety as this person is slipping through their fingertips. If your avoidant partner is slow fading out on you, it is absolutely a good opportunity to hold a boundary. A boundary being your limits of what you will and will not tolerate, what you want, don't need, and what you expect. And if you're not holding boundaries and you're desperately hoping that this person stays in the relationship, ask yourself, why are you choosing to be in a relationship with somebody who is upset with you but refusing to communicate why? Why are you choosing to be in a relationship with somebody who does not communicate their wants, needs, feelings, and expectations to you? What kind of relationship is that you're trying to hold on to anyway? Holding that boundary doesn't have to be confrontational. It can be as simple as saying, I've noticed that there's been some distance in the relationship, a lack of communication. Consistent communication, even about negative things, is important to me, and I feel it's important for a healthy, sustainable relationship. If you're not able or willing to communicate about these things with me, then this relationship dynamic is not something that works for me. And yes, you could lose the relationship, but ultimately, the relationship was heading towards the cliff anyway. You might as well stand up for yourself and stop wasting extra time and emotional energy into a person who's not investing it into you, so you can be free to work on yourself, to heal, and then eventually find somebody who is willing to invest in you the way that you deserve to be invested in.